All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to week 2 of our book study. We are doing, if you're like you don't need to be reading the book to do this. I highly recommend you do because this one is so incredibly good. But if you don't have the book, you're just jumping in. It is Developing the Leader Within You 2.0 by John Maxwell, who is the absolute best. We love everything Maxwell, and it's been so good. And tonight we're on chapter 2, which is priorities. Okay, did this step on anyone else's toes? I was reading the book today, and y'all, today has been a day. Like a day that I should have read this last week before I allowed this day to happen. And sometimes that happens and it sneaks up on you, right? So this book was very timely. I have pages and pages of typed up notes here, but we are gonna dive in, see how far we can get. Just like last time, if it's your first time jumping on, we love to ask questions of everybody on here. Let's see. Gonna mute that. We love to ask questions and we want to hear from you. If you feel like you have really good insight, we just ask that you keep it concise so we can make sure to get through as much as we can. All right, so the beginning of the book is my favorite part, really, that you can't manage time, but you can manage choices. If I had been told this years ago, I think I would have saved myself so many tears, so much struggle, and also a lot of money from trying to buy every single planner system out there, thinking that the planner and time management was my problem, when it was really all my choices, right? I wrote this down in my notes because when I really reflected on it, working with so many women over the last 13 years, and I think that this is the truth, especially women in general, is that busy, saying that we're too busy or we're busy or we have a lot going on. I'm busy, I didn't get to it. I believe it has robbed more futures than failures ever has. Right? How many times have we heard from people, I'm too busy, or we've said it ourselves, or we've felt it? And that stops us from doing what we really want to do and achieve. So if we can get this figured out and start working on it, imagine what can happen, right? Okay. Um, so the question is not, will my calendar be full, but who and what will fill my calendar? We can control our choices, calendar, and priorities, not time. So my first question, because I would love to hear from some leaders that have also experienced this. Maybe you've been on both spectrums. I know I can really speak to it, but I want to hear from you of, was there a time when you tried to manage time and then shifted to managing choices? And do you have an example of what that looked like in your business, going from time management to choice management?
I definitely have been there before. That's when Brittany, she would constantly say, have you looked into time blocking? Have you looked into time blocking? And I'd be like, no, I don't want to be in a box. I don't want to be in a box. Like I prided myself on having a lot of capacity, being able to multitask, getting a lot of things done. And like what we eventually came to was I could get a lot of the most not important things done, but the most important things required a little more focus, a little more space for thought. And those were the harder things. And so those would be the things that would be pushed to the side. And so that's what, when she would always say, it's not what you have to go do, Christina, it's in who you have to become. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. That was part of it. It's like learning to think about the things that are the most important versus fixing or reacting to everything that's popping up.
Very true. People are saying it's so relatable. I love how honest you are, Christina. Like, I have no idea what she was saying. I was thinking about this today. I know that one day I calculated it and I get between 40 and 50 messages, like text messages, not Instagram messages, a day, like just popping up continually. And if I'm not really on guard with that kind of stuff, it can overwhelm the deep work that needs to happen. right? So we're going to get into like realizing what is the priority and what's not. That's so helpful. But I want you to write down and kind of reflect on that question, like what Christina said. What is the difference between time management and choice management? And what does that look like? I'll tell you an example. Suzanne brought it up here, guard what's important. Um, I remember when I would block out time and I would put it in my calendar and I'd have the time there. But if something else popped up because I wanted to have flexibility, Christina, we're the same, because I wanted to have that, because I didn't want to say no to things, I would say yes to, and give my time that I had delegated to working away because I felt like, that was flexible, right? I would say I remember there was one season where our moms were really into volleyball, and I get a text, "Hey, we're gonna play volleyball, at 10 a.m. We're gonna play volleyball at 1, and we're gonna go to the creek this time." And I go, "Oh, sure, I'm coming," because I didn't want to have to say no, but I was saying no to my work time that would bring us what I wanted in the future. So I had to get good at realizing, like, yeah, the time is actually there, but even in the time I've given it, I'm choosing something else, and really start guarding that time, realizing it was more about choices. Um, okay, so we're going to dig into more because I think we want to talk about priorities here. So I love this when he said we have so many deadlines and demands, like those texts, right? Like the 40 text messages or the things that are staying there, that it can be confusing knowing what priorities are. So we have so many deadlines and demands that we feel like are required to get taken care of. So we can get confused with what's really a priority. The art of being wise is knowing what to overlook. I love this. So here's my next question. I want to hear from a few. For those that have like really seen results with this, right? What are things that you have learned to overlook in your business?
I don't know if it would be considered overlooking, but it's just something that I've honed in on that I have noticed a huge difference in my business is when I am in that time block of sending out messages and I have people responding, having the discipline and the what for to not immediately reply to them because my time for sending is not over. So if I dive into those replies, it's like down a rabbit hole for me. I can forget the rest of my messages being sent.
I love that. Good one. That's hard, hard discipline, isn't it? I realized I will
Oh,
answer easy questions fast, and those suck up a lot of time. Like I need to not even be doing that. What else?
well, that's what I was gonna say, kind of is piggybacking off of Molly. I have made myself set my phone to zero notifications going off at all when I am working. Because if I'm in like, I just hype myself up. I listen to a podcast or one of Brittany's things, and I'm like ready to go charge hell with a water pistol. And then I get a message that popped up, and I just saw the notification. It's like, something I didn't want to hear. Or, hey, can I pause my sub? And I'm like, ew. Like instantly my
Mhm.
mood went down. I was in the middle of sending a bold business ask, and now I'm not confident in my bold business ask because I allowed that to get to me. So I turned all notifications off. And like I was on your power hour today, and I told one of the girls, I'm like, she gave us 2 minutes. This is what we accomplished in 2 minutes. You get done what you think you get done in that time.
Amen to that. Yep. That kind of goes with his principle of saying, he talked about like if you're going on a trip, you get the most done before that trip because you know you don't have time to do anything else. So if you really dive down, and you can really knock it out, I love that, Jessa. And I really love how you pointed out that there's things that remove our energy, and we have to be really careful not to do those things or listen or hear or deal with those problems when we need energy for things that we're trying to progress forward, right? I have areas of my house, friends, because my mom knows I'm not the cleanest person. I keep my main part of my house clean because that is where I need energy. That's where I'm at. But there are rooms that we're just going to shut the door because that is a drain if I have to look in there and we don't have time to deal with it. So we're just going to shut the door, right? And I'm going to pretend it doesn't exist. Some things like that in your business that you have to do.
I want
Does
to
anyone else want to share?
I
Yes,
want to
please.
share what I have learned to overlook when it comes to Plexus. I think there's always an opportunity to give our attention to something, right?
Mhm.
So like there's always a Zoom we could get on. There's always a training we could watch. There's always a podcast we could listen to. There's always a book we could read. There's always a chat we could open. And I think as far as the Zooms, I've just had to really learn to prioritize which ones are the most important using really the principles that he's talking about, the Pareto principle. Like if there's 10 opportunities for a Zoom you could get on that week, and there are, then pick the most important two. Which two are the most important? Because if you get on the two most important ones, you got 80% of what you would have gotten anyway. You might have missed a few things, but you didn't miss the most important things. And so I've learned to not give my attention or time to every single opportunity to get on, corporate's offering this or corporate's offering that, or we have this team thing or that team thing or this power hour, like all of these things are good, but we always have to be prioritizing like what is the best, not always what is good.
Mhm.
Can I tell them something else you've overlooked in the business that I think has really, that sounded terrible, but it's really been very helpful? I remember probably a year or two ago, maybe longer, I don't know, but you were doing a deep dive in boundaries. And so you called me one day and you were basically like, hey, so we gotta make some changes because we would talk all day, like we'd strategize or like brainstorm or like, hey, what are your thoughts on this? And it was a lot. And she was basically like, from this day forward, if it's business, I'm gonna need you to be in Messenger. And if it's text, then it's friend or life stuff. And I'm just like, okay. But for the next 2 years, I don't know how long it's been at this point. Like it's just a constant retraining. Like I will send them because I mean it's so habitual. Like, hey, what are your thoughts on what's happening with blah blah blah? And she'll be like, this is in text. I need you to go put that in Messenger. And I'll be like, but it has really worked. And so most of our team now also follows the same thing. Like, don't text us. If you have a question, pop it in Messenger and we'll jump over there. So that has been helpful because you can turn Messenger notifications off. But if something's happening with our kids or my kids or whatever, we do want to be involved. So that has been helpful, like business stuff in the office and then life stuff on the other side.
I love that. I think that goes right into what we're going to talk about margin, creating space. And you hear people talk about burnout and how to manage that. Like that is a really good example of there's office time over here and nothing's an emergency, right? Nothing in Plexus, it can feel like it or someone else can feel like it, but nothing is an emergency where you can create space with that. So I love that, Christina. And do you guys see how, I want to point this out too, how intentional Brittany has had to get during different seasons of her business as a really high level diamond with a ton of kids, to where she even had to tell her best friend, hey, we need to separate our conversations here. And here's kind of the systems we're putting in place because she had to get so fine line with that. That's like me having to say no to volleyball and going to the creek and seemingly like good things, which we're going to get into, to choose better. So if you're in a place where you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to have to do this, I want to do that. If you want to be in our place, you do. And it's a good thing. And it's a good thing for your home and family, right? So much of this I transfer over to my home. So much. All right, so let's get into this. And to wrap that up, I wrote down if everything is a priority, then nothing is, right? All right, so principles to adopt as a developing leader. So here you had a few principles in here. Number one was working smarter has a higher return than working harder. I've loved this. I've really grabbed it probably the last 2 or 3 years building my second Emerald team, is that I didn't need to work more hours. I need to work smarter with the time that I had. And the month I actually went reentry Emerald was was one of the best, happiest months ever in my house. We had the most connection time, we had the most peace because I got really, really clear on what this was. So let's talk about it. I would love to hear some examples. What does working smarter look like for you?
Oh, I got one.
Please
So
share.
it's actually what you taught me is for me to work smarter, I have to get away from my house. My house is a giant distraction. Whether it's my husband, who I love to the end of the world, if I'm home and he's home, he's in my, I mean, Molly can vouch for this. We get on there and he pops in and he pops in, but I have to get away. And in doing that and setting an intentional, we had a conversation when we were coming home after I learned that. And I said, listen, 3 days a week, I'm leaving the house. And I go sit at the bookstore, I go sit at the coffee shop, and I make the intentional time away from all of the distractions at home. So many more messages get sent when I'm not at home.
Yep. I'm so proud of you, Michelle. You're such an action taker. Same thing, you guys. I have sat in my car because I know that then I don't know, self-diagnosed ADHD, mom brain. I will sit in my car to work in my driveway so that I cannot get distracted by other things and I can see my kids through the window so everybody's safe, right? What's another one?
For me,
How do you-
working smarter, not harder, looks like being self-aware and knowing what my highest points of contribution are and what they're not. And also knowing when my brain is at its best and when I can, like, attempt certain amounts of work and get a lot more done during a certain period of the day when my brain is at its peak versus trying to do it when my brain is sluggish or just not at its peak or whatever. So those two things, knowing my highest points of contribution to my business and doing those, and then knowing just like how my body works and when I'm at my best and when I'm not. I get way more done in less time if I'm working during my peak brain hours.
I love it. I so agree. If you guys have not experimented with moving your work time around to fit when you are high energy, that's been a kicker for me too. I'll give you an example of this. I work really well in the mornings, but I was always trying to homeschool in the mornings. And then I try to work in the afternoon after I had done what I was supposed to do. And my energy was just my brain. I couldn't focus. Like, am I supposed to message now? I don't know. And it hit me one day, this is not working. So I moved homeschooling to the afternoon, as crazy as that sounded to my mom brain, like after lunch. And I work in the morning and it is so much more effective. And I'm on fire. And then I'm not needing all of that mental energy and can just sit nicely at the table with the kids or on the couch and do history and be relaxed. So experiment with that.
Okay, I have
Anything else?
one.
Yes,
I have one,
Eva.
and it might be simplistic, but it kind of goes with what you were saying earlier with what do you avoid doing? Was that what the word wasn't avoid, but yeah. It's, I realized this over the years that you can do all of these things where you're seen in plexus. Like you can show up for all these things and you're seen as working. You can show up to the work and worships. You can show up to the like IPA challenges. You can show up, and you're seen as working, but you may not actually be working. If you really, really are self-aware, you'll recognize where your best things are happening and you'll be focusing your time is there where you're the most excited, the most productive, but you may not be seen at all. It will be totally hidden in your own messages, in your own work. And so that's my version of like working smarter, not harder. Whereas you can be seen all over the place. Oh my gosh, she's here every day. She's like the diehard. She's everywhere. But are you actually working? Are you working smart? The smart is often hidden.
So true. I cannot agree with that more. Smart is often hidden. We should write that down. Eva quote, as always.
Can I share something, Amber?
Yes, please.
So something that I feel like has really helped me for working smarter, not harder, is tracking my numbers and messages and all of that. But then also taking time to reflect at the end of the month and like the first day of the next month, because for the longest time I would just want to jump into the next month, and actually tracking and really reflecting gets me out of like repeating the exact same cycle all the time. And so analyzing what I'm doing so that I can make
Did you finish
adjustments and
cleaning?
tweak things.
I love that, Hannah. Self-awareness and like business auditing. So good. we cannot, what's the saying? We can't make progress in things we don't track. Who knows the pretty quote behind that? Something like that, right, Brittany? She's like, you're close.
I think you said you nailed it. I think everybody knew what you meant.
All right. Thank you for bringing that out, Hannah. Okay, we're gonna go on to, so I want you to write down in your notes, how can I work smarter? How can I work smarter? And then write down some ideas. Take what we've said, but write down your own. Here my notes are. Okay, so I love this next one, and I'm gonna kind of blend these a few, but it's that you can't have it all. Oh, as someone who wants it all, this is hard for me. I can't have it all. I have to, right, Eva, like, wait, 7, we're supposed 7. 7's one it all. I've had to say no to a lot. I've had to say no to a lot. And then realizing I'm blending with this the next is that the good is always the enemy of the best. This one makes me want to cry, okay? The good is always the enemy of the best. So sometimes the things we want to say yes to, we want to be seen as participating in, we feel a sense of obligation to have to say yes to different things, right? Because maybe that makes us a good mom or a good friend or whatever. That might be good, but is it the best? Ugh, hits heavy with me. Okay, so and I think it's the people pleaser that hits heavy with me, is I've said yes to a lot of things to please other people and realize that's not in alignment with what's best for our home. So now I stay really open-handed with everything and really picky with everything. So I want to hear from you all, what are seemingly good things that you have had to let go of? You don't have to be specific, we keep this generic, but you've had to say no or remove from your schedule.
I'd like to answer this.
Please.
And Brittany has helped me again with this. And it comes from clarity on what is the absolute most important. And if you don't really know, then you have to take yourself through the why exercise, 7 layers deep. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, just Google why 7 times. And it helps crystallize why what you're doing is important and what is it that you really want. And like after the whole, today, Charlie Kirk's birthday, right? A month ago. Ever since then, that just really, I'm not going to say rocked me, but rocked me in the best way to get uber clear on what it is that I'm about. And I have. And so there are things that I just say no to, like everything at my child's school, or having a Pinterest worthy every room in my house, or even cooking lots of I don't cook intricate meals, but we may have rotisserie chicken 2 times a week or 3 times a week or fill in the blank. There's a lot and I've said no to coffee dates. I've said no to a lot because what I want is so important to me. And my values are so crystal clear now, like God, my husband, my girls, mentoring women that want impact and income. And if it doesn't fall within those priorities, it's a no. And becoming so clear on those have just helped me just say no to other things, no to people's asks of my time, of my talent, because here's the thing, when you are, this sounds awful, but when you're a competent leader, everyone's going to have a plan for you. Everybody wants what you like, they want you, they see your gifting, but it doesn't mean you should say yes to everything, because when you're saying yes, you're saying no to something else. So anyway, I don't want it all, but what I want is my values, and what I want is to hear God say, well done, good and faithful servant. So I have to be very clear on what he's put in my hand and just deal with those things.
Amen. When you said that, I was thinking, I don't want it all either. I want to be all for everybody. And I think as women, a lot of times we feel that pressure to be all for everyone. And I'm sure men too. I'm sorry to generalize that. But, and I've had to realize I can't. And what can I do? What can I be well, and who are the people that that's important for. If there's so much limited of me, we're human limitations, right?
Can I
Michelle?
tell you one thing to that? Because when I read that, I thought, dang, this is the hardest thing for women. Because we feel like we're in this juxtaposition of I want to be a mom, but I want to be a crazy, successful businesswoman. And how can I have both? And something that Brittany, again, said last year on our Ruby retreat that was so clarifying. It's because she said yes to this that it enabled her to be the mom and the wife that she always wanted to be. And I've seen that in my own life. And I heard Ed Milet say this. He said, not pursuing your dreams is a huge form of child neglect, because when you don't go after the things that God's put in your heart, you're basically telling your children that they shouldn't go after theirs. And so I've seen it play out in my own life, that as I've gone for the things that God's put in my heart, it's given permission to my children to do the same. And they actually told me that one year for Mother's Day. So even in that worldly thinking of even Christianese, like if I want to be the good Christian wife, I got to put a doily on my head and bake bread. I don't bake bread and I don't have doilies. But guess what? Neither was the Proverbs 31 woman. She was in the marketplace buying and selling things. So it's like God reshaping what it is to be the godly woman and to actually be faithful to your business and to your family, not in that order.
Yes. I feel like we could just listen to Michelle talk about that all day, right? You know what I love about the Proverbs 31 woman is all the things she did was a sign of wisdom, and that's going to look different in your home than it looks in somebody else's, right? So wisdom in your home doesn't have to match what someone else's. So really, really be evaluating that. Thank you, Michelle.
So I don't have to milk cows in my home. I can still be wise.
Don't have to milk cows. And friends, like the last week, Justin and I were evaluating our cows. Is this still best for our family? Does this align with the values that we have? Is this becoming more burden than blessing? And so when I say we stay open-handed with everything, my identity is not in anything that we're doing. It's in, is this wisdom for what we believe God has put on our hearts for our home and family, right? And for us, even though we're spending ridiculous times out there, it was like, yes, it does align with the goal that we have currently for our home. And so we do it.
We're all invested in your best friend cow, so you can't get rid of that one.
Amber, I'm
She's all very
so
important.
I totally agree with that about always evaluating everything, like always, and your identity is not caught up in that. Totally agree with everything Michelle said too. And as far as like what to say no to and what to say yes to, it does change frequently, and that's why we always have to be evaluating. And one example I have of that is like I have to do this like even as a mother, like what is my highest point of contribution to my children? Because of course I want to be the primary influence in their life. I don't just want to be the sage wise person they come to. I want to be the fun mom. I want to prepare them meals. I want to be all the things to my kids too. But I also want to provide them the life that we have. And so I can't be it all. So I just let Christina be the fun one and I'm the wise one. To my kids. No, but seriously, last year, like we would even evaluate like, okay, taking them to school and picking them up. Who's going to do that? Like me and my husband would split that up. And last year it was like it didn't seem like it was my highest point of contribution to my children to actually take an hour in the mornings where my brain is at its peak to take them to school and then come home, because that's an hour round trip. And so I would stay home and I let my husband do that so that I could actually be very productive with that same hour. Well, this year, my focus is a little different. I'm actually working very intentionally on being present. And that round trip hour to school in the morning, my husband and I take them together. And it's one of my favorite parts of the day. And it's really meaningful. And it is a very high point of contribution from me to my family and to my own mental health, because it's an hour where I feel like I'm starting my day with my family. We're all together and enjoying each other's company. but the priority and the goal is different in this season than it was even 6 months ago. And so it's the same exact activity, but now it's a high point of contribution, and just a few months ago it was not. And so we do always have to be evaluating, and we cannot be married to anything. And I will take this to my Jules all the time too. Like, we're always evaluating, like, what are we offering our team right now? What about our team calls? What are we doing for coaching calls? What are we doing for Zooms? Like, what are we asking our team to give their attention to? And is everything that we're offering to our team very high value and going to bring a very high return for the attention and the time that they're giving it? And I'm not married to anything, nothing. Like, we've done book studies for 10 years. And there was a season a few months ago where we cut it out because it wasn't the need in the moment. And so I'm not married to anything, no matter how long we've been doing it. And it's the same, with business, health, fitness, finances, marriage, parenting. We always have to be evaluating what our priorities are in that season.
Yep. I love it. And it did not make you any better of a mom when you were staying at home during that hour, or any better of a mom that you're going now. I think that's really key here, friends, because you could hear Brittany say, oh, she's starting an hour with her kids on this drive. Like, I want to be a good mom. That's what I need to do. But a couple months ago, that wasn't wisdom for their full long picture of their home. So just because it might look good and feel good from an outside perspective, is that actually what you should be doing right now? Right? And wisdom is also looking into the future. Proverbs 31 woman clothed her family because she knew winter was coming. So that is looking into the future. Okay. Whew, so much good stuff. So much good stuff. Let's move more into our business here for a second. Shift from that to our business. We're going to he talks about the 80-20 rule. I don't want this to end without speaking about this. And I thought it was so cool. I wrote it down that if John Maxwell says that over the 45 years of his intentional career when he wrote this book, that the 80-20 rule has been one of his top secrets to his success, then it's what we need to be applying. And it is that 80% of your results in anything is going to come from 20% of what you do, or that's the highest priority. There's 20% of the action is going to create 80% of the results. So he gives different breakdowns of this, of what those things could be, but I'm going to pop this up on the screen, and I wrote it out for y'all. And I would love for some leaders who have really figured these things out to fill in some of these quadrants for us, please. What is a high important, high urgency task?
Preparing a training for a team-wide event that's happening this weekend.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's when you have a deadline for something that is going to be a high point of contribution for you, but there's a deadline looming.
Okay, so I think you could divide that depending on the deadline, because high importance, high urgency. And then there's high importance, low urgency. So if your deadline's farther out, then your preparing might be over here, right? Like, set a deadline for it because it needs to happen for long-term success. But
Or
maybe
there might not be a deadline at all if on the low urgency. So that would be things like high importance, low urgency would be like your income producing activity. There's not a deadline like that. High importance, low urgency is things like exercise. Like, there's not really a deadline. It just needs to be a habit because it's very important, and there's consequences if you don't do it, and there's benefits if you do. So it's like your income producing activity. And there could be some deadlines sometimes, like you might need to get 3 by the end of the month for a short-term goal, or like if you're closing on a contest or something like that. But generally, the high important, low urgency things, that's going to be your income producing activity, because it doesn't usually feel urgent, just like exercise doesn't.
Or I think about if we're going to revamp a system or like recreate a system, things that are done like in increments. Like, okay, we need to kind of start with this. That feels high important, like very important, that we need to figure this out, but we're going to have to do it in chunks, and we're going to have to like do it slower.
Yeah. I would say if you were dividing your IPA in this, the high importance, high urgency, like do these first, they impact growth and momentum is going to be conversations always, right? So it's offers, it's the actual in the messages. This is not network conversations, like connections. This is, have you tried Plexus? Do you want to try? Are you looking for an income? Can I tell you my story? That's what this would be on your work. So often we put this last because everything else to do might be emotionally easier, right? This is first to me. High importance, low urgency, personally would be more posting. Like if we're breaking down how we should work in our IPA, social media stories and posting, there's no immediate growth and momentum from that, like I can get from a conversation, but it's still important and it's good for long-term success to be visible, right? Low importance, high urgency. I'd probably say like customer check-ins, things that need to happen, but not right now. Things that you could maybe systematize, different things like that. So be looking at your work and where does it fall? And he really digs. Remember, he said this is what has given him long-term success in his career. So what I'd encourage you to do, I've done this before many times, write out everything that you think you need to do in your business, from the daily to the weekly to the monthly. Do the exercise of writing it all out. And then go into this book, and he gives the quadrants, and place things in the proper quadrant. And that's where you'll know you should be working. Another thing he has here, and this might be, is here's the principle. Here's an example, and I love the visual example, is that two of your two highest priorities are going to give you 80% of production. The 8 other things you have to do are the 20%. So what would someone on mute, what would you put as in this quadrant of bringing you 80% of your results?
I would say the prospecting conversations and then coaching calls to help people move forward in their business.
Conversations and coaching calls. Yep. Miranda, getting your messages out. Yep, because a lot can be an IPA, right? I want you to get so specific. Biz conversations over product conversations. So that would be in your top 2. So then friends, like Sherry put business conversations, that means she should be starting her work. The first thing she does, if that's the only thing she can do, is sending business reach outs. If she has done that, she has maximized the time that she has spent, right? I'd say same as Brittany said, mine would definitely be conversations and getting face to face with someone. I know that I can get a one-on-one with someone, I can get so much traction with them. So be thinking about that. Okay. Product messages, Suzanne. Yep. So a part of this 80-20 that he talks about, and this one, especially if you have larger teams as you're getting up there, is that 20% of the people produce 80% of the result. You lead and lock arms with the 20, and you love the 80, right? And this is not to say the 80 are not important, but the 20%, your top people, I want you to think about it, especially if you have, senior gold, ruby up team, they usually get forgotten about because they seem like they're good to go. They're your 20%, they're producing the most. So we'll spend the bulk of our time over on the people that seem like they need us more, trying to motivate someone who's not showing up that said they want to, but I'm going to be in here again trying to motivate you when my top 20 is over there doing the thing, but they're good. So I'll just stay over here trying to revive the sleeping, right? That's how often we feel like we're supposed to be doing, when what we should be doing is linking arms. I love how he says, what are 2 to 5 things that you can do to add value to your top 20%? And if you have a team of 5, who's your top person on there? How can you add value to them? And by top, meaning producing the most of the results, who are showing up, right? Does anyone want to talk about this? I know this is kind of getting into that leadership subject here.
I mean, it's true. It's definitely true. Your time should go to the people who earn your time, not the ones who need it. And people need to deserve your time. And I can vouch that 80% of my points come from 20% of my leaders.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely true.
I used to think it was maybe like mean of me to do that. Then I realized that it actually pulls away from my family, and it's not wisdom of me to give time to input my condensed amount of work time into the people who are not doing what they say they're going to do, who are requiring constant belief building, right? It's not wisdom. It's like it's wisdom, and it's best for my family and my home, and a good steward of what I've been given to pour into the top 20, right? It is not mean. It's actually kind to your top 20 who are really there deserving it and
Yeah.
showing up.
I was
Well,
hoping you were going to touch on that on this call, Amber, because I think like you guys were saying earlier how like as women we generally feel the pressure to like be everything for everybody. And I would say that's especially true if you are a Christian, because it feels like you are rejecting somebody, or like not giving up on them, but like you just can feel the pressure of being pulled in a lot of different directions. And as your team grows bigger and bigger and bigger, you literally have no choice but to prioritize. And I realized that what I had to prioritize was my family. And the only way I would be able to do that is to treat this like a business, not necessarily a charity organization, because I grow this business to provide for my family and to give my children the life that I want my children to have, right? And so that means I have to say yes to my top 20%. And I'm going to love the 80%, but I must invest in the top 20%. And just because I'm not investing, my best time, resources, and energy into the 80% does not mean that I care less for them as a person. It just means that's not my role or responsibility in their life. And my role and responsibility and priority has to be toward my family first, and that means treat this like a business and not make it like it's a charity, because my time is not unlimited, and neither is my energy or my brain space.
Yep. And I'll add to that. What Sherry said is so wise in the chat about how time it does not equal human value, right? It's just about knowing where the best return on your time when you're running a business is, because the person is showing you that. And so that also means that at any time, someone from the 80% can rise into the 20 at any time. And that has happened, right? We have seen that so many times. So you're not labeled. If you feel maybe, oh, I think I might be in the 80, hey, friends, great, that's okay. Rise yourself into the 20 by showing up, doing what you said you're going to do, and proving that, right? I have definitely been in the 80 before, and here we are. So, all right, let's go into our last piece here. We can't talk too long, and which is how to create margin. And I love that he included this, because we're talking about working, 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 being smarter with our time. Part of being smarter with your time means you get more time off, right? So when someone tells me they're burnout, it's not a time problem, it's an energy problem, because they're not delegating, they're not creating space for energy or delegating that energy. So I would love to hear really quickly from some leaders, how have you created margin and space?
Feel like I'm saying way too many things. Y'all can tell me to shut up. But I had to be very intentional about this too, because first of all, I love my business. I literally love to work my business. It is very fulfilling to me, and I love my people. And I just enjoy talking to them, so I could do it all the time. Um, but I also love my family, and I don't want my business to be my entire life. So I've had to put so many boundaries in place so that I can have some margin. Lori Bradford told me something really wise one time that stuck with me. And she said, Brittany, I don't do everything in my business in a day that I could do. I never do everything for my business that I could do or that I want to do. And that felt like permission. You know, it's kind of like being in college where you don't really know if you've studied enough until after the exam. Like you could always study a little more. It doesn't ever feel super clear if you studied enough, right? Until after the exam. Building a business can feel kind of like that. And so what I've had to do is decide what my priorities are and what I'm going to allow myself to give to it, and then trust the Lord for the result. Just really do the best, diligent, most faithful work that I can do with what I have, and trust the Lord with the timing and the result. And then Christina mentioned about the messenger thing, how I just, if it's business related, I want it on Messenger because I can turn all of that off. So that when I'm at dinner, I don't hear my phone vibrating a million times because I can't turn my text messages off, right? So I separate those, have boundaries there. On Sundays, I do not work. I always take a Sabbath, and that's not easy to do, especially if it's on the last day of the month, but it's an act of faith. Like it's me saying to the Lord, like, this is not all up to me. This is also you. And I'm going to trust you I'm going to be diligent. I'm going to be faithful, but I'm ultimately, you're the one who sends the harvest, and I'm just going to trust you with that. So I definitely take a Sabbath.
Same. I usually take Wednesdays and the weekends because I'm high value on the other days. Okay, friends, so we're gonna have to wrap it up. Our next call is on discipline. So I think it kind of went together perfect with priority and discipline, because if we're not disciplined in the actions, then priorities don't matter, right? He said something in here, which is I'm constantly on the lookout for ways to simplify my life so that I can be more productive in the things that matter, right? Priorities never stay put. So you have to learn to master the principles of priorities, which is what we've talked about. And I wanted to add this, that as your business grows and as you're taking on this business, if you're new to it even, you're gonna have more on your plate. But I want you to embrace those new problems because that's only there because you've had growth, right? And now you could either feel this as a burden and a weight, and I have so much to do, or you could feel it as a blessing that now you get to contain more. Wow, I have this now. I have all the abundance that I prayed for a year ago. I have the opportunity that I have been praying on my knees for, and now it's right in front of me. And now I'm feeling like I'm stretched to hold it. But what a blessing that now I have all of this instead of feeling like I only had this. And let me learn how to hold this better and be a good steward. And that goes with us for life. Right? So we're going to end on that note. Thank you so much, ladies, for everything that you've brought. And we'll see you on our next call and next week on our next chapter, which I believe is character, right? So excited for that. And all right, good job, friends. We are growing and we are learning and we're expanding our capacity together. Thank you so much, ladies. See you in a few.